Good afternoon, guys, and welcome to iPunt Smart. We're racing from Turffontein today, moved from the Vol course, and unfortunately, the service provider that provides our data hasn't changed to Vol yet, which does mean that we are still at the Vol and not Turffontein. But let's hope that the ratings can last through. The first race, I really see it as a two-horse race between Rolling with the Punches and Cold Fact. The times for me on Cold Fact, though, was quite a bit better on the 800 56.88 on Turffontein, which is extremely good. And then the 57.21 on the 800 at Vol. So if I look at the Turffontein, which is a 9-meter climb, then Cold Fact is probably my one that I probably prefer in this race. So Cold Fact for me by Roll with the Punches. The algorithm says Roll with the Punches by Cold Fact. And then the next best, Route 66, Freedom of Choice to Mavati. In the second race, we've had a scratching here in the form of Chloris, and the greenie here is Magical Flight. Again, a very small looking field, and Magical Flight 600 Vol has a 6 bat as the best bat figure. Sean Terry, Lyle Hewitson has some nice races today, but I prefer their double in races 6 and 7. So I'm not really going to go for Magical Flight here because I do think that between Magical Flight, Katy Perry, Diorama, and League of Her Own, there's not much between them, separating them. I watched the replay of the race for Katy Perry the previous time, and looked like Katy Perry's probably got a bit more in the tank still, and is the favourite, and only runner for Janse van Vuren to boot. So I do think that Katy Perry is well worth a nibble on with Magical Flight, Diorama, and League of Her Own. Those four is probably for me the quartet. Then Jacko Boy is going to have to run fifth, unfortunately. Then in the third race, now this is quite an interesting race for me because in the third race, I think I wouldn't be too surprised if this Doris Sham Shimanga Kumalo runner is pretty decent, and the reason for that is because my best bet on the card, Sunny Quinn, is the other Doris Sham and Craig Zaki runner for the day, popping up in the next race. So I'm going to include Bat Out of Hell in my equations. In fact, I'll just update the exotics as well, so everyone else can also see it. I'm going with very small exotics today, to be quite honest with you, because purely from I don't think it's going to pay well. So that is my bipod. My PA is I've got it here. I'm just copy and pasting it across so everyone can see it as well. Luckily, it doesn't take a lot of time. There's my PA now in as well. Then we move on to the pick 6, which for me is a very tiny little pick 6 today. In fact, my full perm is 5 times 5, 25, 75 times 6, 450 bucks for the full pick 6 today. So I've gone very small, and the reason for that is because I don't have accurate Turffontein ratings. I have Vol ratings, and I'd rather just have a small nibble for today and then miss out completely. And tomorrow is another day, and tomorrow there is no change of venue on the cards, at least. That's a good thing. You'll see Kenilworth already loaded, Kenilworth the day after tomorrow, Turffontein also, they are all loaded already. So that would mean that you can plan your weekend ahead. Some guy actually told me that the next 8 greenies together in a place multiple works out to 30 to 1. And he says he thinks he's quite confident on that. So keep that in mind, those 8 greenies that pops in. So there's now actually 9 greenies plus today's 3. That's 12 greenies. Getting back to today. So my first and second choice here is very close between Broadway Babe and Dancing Arabian, with Nyakasanga my third choice. You can see the odds here, 16, 5 and 16, and this could be the race where the bipod could help paying a little bit. There is a favourite here in the form of first time a Golden Spoon, Mike de Kock, Alan Murray, but Mike de Kock has not been firing in all cylinders at the moment, to be quite honest with you. So I'm not 100% confident about Mike de Kock and his first timer today. So the ratings isn't either. The percentages from a probability perspective is 34 races, 38% win um, on the opening betting for the Vol 1000 meters Class G. It'll probably be a bit different on Turffontein. And on intent, it's 27%, so not worth it for only 85% return. And then there's a Sean Terry, Lyle Hewitson first timer in the form of Magic Choice. There's Doris Sham that I quite like with Sunny Quinn, which is my best bet in the next race. And then there's these outsiders, Dancing Arabian, Broadway Babe, Nyaka Sanga, Jam Fancy, Regency Ball, and Cape Diamond. All of those, their bat figures here. You can see Dancing Arabian you can forgive on his last run, because that 10.7 bat on the 42 days is way worse than the 84 days. So let's me just, there's a button there that opens up everything. So let's just have a quick squiz here. If Roy Magner does well in the first race, then I'm going to play some 3.4 on the top four on Dancing Arabian, because Roy Magner's only got the 3 for the day. And if I move back to the Vol, you see these last runs, Turffontein, Dancing Arabian's not doing all that well. So I'm looking at the Turffontein runs, then it's not looking good. The Vol runs, he's clearly been better on the Vol with the Naught bat. He's best over the 1200. But he's moving back to 1000 today, and it seems that his one run where he's done the best was the 1200. So on that note, Broadway Babe, which is only runner for Brett Weber, with Mallorca's only ride as well, is not a bad little option given that 1.74 bat figure. So it has to be respected. Then Ashley Fortune's in quite good form, and Ashley Fortune's first run over the 1000 meters was a 5.98, which is pretty good as well. But I have to keep on reminding myself that I have to look at the Turffontein form as well, and in that case, something like a Cape Diamond pops in nicely at 1160 Turffontein, 8 bat figure, which is very respectable on the uphill. These figures are all 14, 15 and 10 on the Amalfi Coast. That's probably going to improve because Paul Peter stable has been on fire, and he did have a lot of support, 1.8 into 1.85 on debut. Then yeah, so there's a bit of a tricky race to me, quite honestly. So just got a hunch. My hunch is that Doris Sham is going to try the double, because I've seen in the past where our best bet pops out well, then you have to respect that trainer for the day. So I do think Bata the Hell is not a bad option at 9-1, but it's on debut, so it is completely speculative, to be quite honest with you. Of the Turffontein form, I think Cape Diamond has the best Turffontein form, judging on this 8.57, because the Blue Bats is of course now not Blue Bats, because this is Vol and it's not Turffontein. But if I'm looking at Turffontein form, then this is the best Turffontein form is Cape Diamond. So do also take Cape Diamond into the equation. Moving on to the fourth race then, and here is my Sunny Quinn. Now I did these studies last night when the course was still all done for Vol, but I checked it this morning, and this 1000-meter turf form is a 0.86, which is still great, and a 57.75 adjusted time is still very good, especially for 1000 meters at Turffontein, carrying 60 kilos. So I think Sunny Quinn is a really decent individual here to go with. It's my first choice. My second choice would go to Justice Rich here with Dickon and Stefanos Botha. Because of this 1.78 vol Blue Bat, when Dickon was riding that day, and I think that he should be in the mix as well. Imitation Game, I think, is scratched now, so let me just update the card changes as well. I think Imitation Game is scratched now. And then my next best, Stormy Seas and Mezuzah, the Kokonyeni, comes in at 3, with Unpredictable, the next best. And then the first timer with Kokum Terzi, that's in really decent form as well. Varati, with Ryan Munger taking the ride. Bit of unknown quantity, these first timers, to be quite honest with you, so that's a bit tricky. Then the next race, yeah, Lord Melbourne's now also a scratch in this race. So that would mean that Captain Chorus becomes my first choice in this race. And some very respectable bat figures, albeit red bats, with Kamalo taking the ride. Over the 2,400 vol, he got that 8.8, which is already better than any of these bats here. The 1.67 was only over 1,800. So hoping he can do that same kind of run over at Turffontein. Captain Chorus, my first choice. So Long Spring at 16 to 1. My second choice, very similar on the bat figures, 10 versus 8. Again, that's Vol and not Turffontein, because the update didn't happen from the suppliers. Then third choice, Port Key. Mike de Kock and Callan Murray. Some very good low bats here, makes him the best bat curve and the best bomb rolls to boot. And then Major Return, only runner with Ryan Munger taking the saddle. He's another one. Did well on his last 2,400 vol form with a 12 bat. So that would be the order of preference for me. Captain Chorus, my first choice, So Long Spring, Port Key, Major Return, Odd Rob, French Leaf, Gold Griffin. But yeah, you'll see that my third leg of my pick 6, 2, 1, 4, 7, and 5 has gone quite big. I've only gone Sunny Quinn as a banker in this leg. Then in the next leg, the 6th, I've gone 3 runners, 1, 2, and 6. Snow Palace, Cornish Pomodoro, and Ballet Shoes. Interesting to note, Snow Palace at 9 to 1 pops in at the best bats, but not by much, with Ballet Shoes in second. Cornish Pomodoro, because of his weight of 60 kilos, has a little bit more to do, but he's a classy individual, and he probably can get to it. So I'm going to go with those 3 as my first 3 options. And I've actually gone with Cornish Pomodoro because I quite like the greenie in the 7th, which is a Tarry horse, and maybe the Tarry double is on in race 6 and race 7. So for that reason, I think your best double for 110% returns the place double on Sunny Quinn and Making a Scene together. Making a Scene, a greenie here, very close to grazing in the grass on the most recent bat figures on 42.84 days, but after that, then there's quite a bit of gap. Banner Bridge pops in as 13.47, which is only 3 lengths difference, but it's not over the 1700. The figure 13 was over 1400, and just purely judging on Turffontein, you can see his Turffontein bat figures is not been great at all. And now we're back at Turffontein, so I know there's talk about Banner Bridge, but the data doesn't support it. So my third choice is Bartholomew's, which has had a much improved run on the last run. He does have the best adjusted time on that run. And my fourth choice is Wolf's World. Paul Peter and Craig Zaki. Of course, the Paul Peter stable is in very good form. And he won his last rate over the 1600, which is very similar to the 1700 Turffontein he faces today. And he made 23 lengths improvement here on those runs back from that rest. So could be improving a bit more. But yeah, Making a Scene I do like in that race. In the 8th race, I have gone with Keeping the Peace and Imperial Duke as my first 2. You can see why 5.83 versus a 5.2, very close together. I have gone with keeping the piece as first choice though, because he would have been a greenie if it weren't for 0.89 points, which is the difference where Imperial Duke beat him by in this race on the total T curve, because the rule says more than 15 greenie points as well as the highest T curve. He has, however, got the highest in all the bomb rolls and bats, and he has the best exact course and distance, which does mean nothing today because they are running on Turffontein. So that 5.2 blue bat should actually be the 7.44 on the 1600 Turffontein, which is still very good. And well, it's actually still the best. The 1600 Turffontein 7.44. There's nothing here better than that. So keeping the piece by Imperial Duke, by Royal Mazarin, and then Parallax, and then Light Without Only Runner for St. John Gray. Doesn't have to be all that better. And Ryan Munger takes the ride, and St. John Gray took 2 winners on the previous on the Tuesday card. So St. John Gray must be respected. Light Warrior is definitely in there. In the last race for me, and then the next best Sunray and the next best Officer, and then Cultured Pull and Royal Tiger. So that could be my upset leg today in the last leg of the Pick Six. Okay, guys, have a good day, and speak to you again tomorrow for the big day at start of Kenilworth.